yeah, yeah. So what age were you when you started to realize that this had happened? Was it something that you were taught in schools or taught by your elders or your own mother? Or I mean, how did you become aware of it even? This had happened?
Diane, do you want to go first?
Sure. Growing up, my family, my aunts, my uncle, they actually didn't tell us the stories. We
Yeah,
just knew from being within the community that it had happened.
yeah.
We knew of the events, of recognizing the survivors. It wasn't until a few years ago where my mom and two of her siblings were able to open up and share just a small size amount of what has happened there.
Yeah,
And those stories still are hard to hear and hard to share.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you.
And I would say for me, we didn't really understand as children what my father was talking about. He wouldn't, as Diane said, he didn't sit us down and tell us about what happened. But if he was angry or acting out, information would come out, and it would be too hard for us as children to take in the
Yeah,
weight of the atrocities. The really bad stuff happened to him, and he was really never did resolve his issues with his mother, my grandmother, who I was quite close to. And when she passed away, I found one of her old diaries from back then. She had more than one child, and the residential school that my dad and one of his sisters was at was like really rock throwing distance from her house. And she wasn't allowed in, wasn't allowed to see them. So she wrote in her diary that she would go and tend to the plants around the outside of the fence, and just in the hopes of seeing her children one day. And she would write letters and ask them to give it to the children, not knowing if they would ever get them or not, just telling them that she loved them, and wishing that they knew that she was trying to get them back. And it was such painful reading to see that. And I honestly, I didn't really connect all of it until I didn't grow up in Musqueam, so I didn't hear from our other elders about what was going on. But when I was working at Musqueam, it was in the time of the commission statements, and they were asking our elders to come and follow up on their statements that they had submitted in writing, and they had to go before a panel who was going to question their submissions and ask in some cases for proof of what happened. And so our elders, this was a time of great pain for a lot of them. Outsiders would say, oh, they were going to get some kind of settlement for having gone to school, but really they were going to painfully share the facts of what happened to them, with a hope that it would finally get recorded and documented. But that took a lot out of them. Some had heart attacks, ended up in the hospital, and some just literally couldn't bear up. I think very strongly about one elder who he used to come and visit me at my workplace every day, very happy and jovial. And he had to go, he had a letter asking him to go and speak before the panel. And he asked me, what do you think about that, Mary? And I said to him, oh, just go and just tell them and get it written down. And what part of his testimony was, he was 3 years old when he was taken, and he didn't know any other language other than Hunkaminam. And every time he spoke Hunkaminam, the priest would poke him in the eye. And so the panel wanted to ask him about that. And so they sent him for an eye exam. And he brought the next letter to me and was like, what do you think about this? Should I go for this eye exam? And I'm like, just go. Just follow through the steps so that we can get to the other side of this process. And I still wasn't really taking in how it was making him feel. So he went for this eye exam. And then it turned out that, like, he'd always worn glasses the whole time that I knew him. And he was always taking them off and cleaning his glasses and putting them back on. And it turned out when he went for the eye exam that there was actually dried blood in the back of his eyes from the time he was a child. And so they were able to clear that out. And then he didn't need his glasses anymore.
That's incredible.
And so he was so angry about having spent a lifetime struggling to see. And now he could see, but he had gone through this huge painful process. And he died about a year later, but he was a changed person from all of that. And if you look at the testimonies that are published online in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission reports, there are countless stories that are probably way worse than that, and well, definitely way worse than that. But so many bad things happened to these little children. He was 3.
Yeah.
You must think about a 3-year-old nearby and just think, what kind of a person treats a child like that? And I do remember one other statement from the testimonies, and it was from a priest who said, "We were sent to civilize the savages, but we became the barbarians."
Oh,
and so true, so true.
yeah.
So I think myself, since the announcement of this statutory holiday and since the announcements of the ground penetrating radar on the grave sites at schools, I have had a countless lineup of co-workers coming to my door, upset, wanting to know, is this true? How could this happen? What can I do? And it is shocking and unfathomable. And people just have to, we just have to take in the truth. It didn't get taught in school when I was at school. It didn't get taught in Diane's school, but it is being taught now. And how can we share it with our children, not to scare them, not to frighten them? And how can we share with newcomers, which is another call to action, to make sure that people know when they're coming here, you know, we're a good country, but we didn't always behave properly.
Yeah.
So, it's important that people know, walk into it with their eyes open and with a commitment to do better going forward.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. So would that be your, I mean, if there was one thing you wanted to say to newcomers to Canada, what would it be? Would it be that educate yourself, become aware?
Yes.
And are there ways of doing that in Richmond? I mean, I you know, I must admit, I wouldn't know where to go quite. Are there places you can go in Richmond where you could learn more, or you could experience more of or find out a little bit more about Indigenous history?
Well, I do know from having worked in Musqueam on education programs for community, that the Richmond School District and that the library system, the librarians have all come to Musqueam to try and find where they can get materials for the schools and for the libraries. And there's been a definite effort that way. And also in the arts and culture community of Richmond, there has been efforts to include Musqueam art in public art displays and in sharing the stories. So even if it's just temporary, there's always an explanation of why we're including Musqueam. So Richmond is part of Musqueam.
Yes.
And my family, for example, the Point family, grew up in what was called Quayuk. And that was just outside Steveston, in what is now called Gary Point.
Oh, right.
And Gary Point was named after one of Captain Vancouver's officers. And they couldn't say my great uncle's name, Tiakthip, and they couldn't say my great grandfather's name, Maneth, and they couldn't even say Quayuk. But they renamed every place after their own friends and family. And so our village of Quayuk was renamed to be Gary Point. And then they ended up calling us the Indians from the Point, and eventually the Points. And that's how we got our last name.
Wow.
So crazy, but true. So in terms of that, Some of my relatives have worked very closely with Richmond School District and the city to instill little markers around the island. And there are, of course, lots of online resources. And Musqueam does take time to be part of Richmond's public festivals, and definitely Indigenous History Month and so on. So going forward, there is lots more to share and lots more to do.
Yes. Wonderful, thank you. And Diane, what would you like to see, particularly in terms of newcomers, what would you like to see newcomers do to reach out or find out more? Or
I would say reach out to the public libraries. There's people there to help them. What they learn, they can share.
Yes.
What they learn, they can share with family from where they traveled from.
Yeah, yeah. Wonderful, thank you. Yes, yeah. Well, I just wanted to thank you both so much. Is anything you'd like to add, or I mean, I just wanted to say thank you so much, and really appreciate you spending this time. And again, thank you for welcoming me. I can't even say it to your territory, your unceded territory. And so just again, thank you for spending this time with me and explain a little bit more, and giving those vital messages for newcomers that will allow them to understand a little bit more about where they've come to, and really grapple with what it means to be Canadian. Yeah, which means grappling with that present and that history.
Haijka, Alan, for inviting us to provide a welcome, because it's important for us to welcome newcomers. And also, I just wanted to mention that Diane and I are both wearing orange today. And orange is a sign that that was initiated by a young girl, Phyllis Webstad. She was wearing a brand new orange shirt when she went to residential school, and it was taken away from her and she never saw it again. And that color orange always reminds her that she was forgotten and was abused and was treated as less than. And we hope that once that all the children come home, that we'll change our colors to color of celebration. But for now, we invite and ask everyone to wear orange for September 30th.
Absolutely, great. That's another thing we can ask our clients to do, and really should do, because of course September is also Orange Shirt Day as well.
Yes,
it was there already, and then it's the 2 days are kind of combined in some way. Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Okay,
really,
well,
really
we raise our hands to you, Alan. And I just want to say we do that when we say Haijka, which is thank you. And we do that to thank you because you lifted us up by including us today. And we want to lift you up in return. So
thank you so much. Thank you. I really, really appreciate you spending the time with me. And thank you. And have a wonderful day, wonderful weekend. And I'll definitely be wearing orange on the 30th. Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye.